Yo, what's going on everyone? How you guys doing today? Welcome back to the Steam 2 video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a brand new build that uses some of those reworked exotics. Today, we're going to be using the reworked Prospector as well as the Raijus Harness. I decided to combine them both into one build, and it's beautiful. This build is all about ad clear, blinding, spamming supers, and just getting a whole lot of damage out there with the Gathering Storm and also with the Prospector. We're also going to explain what the new buffs are and how they fit into this build. And just so you get a taste of what's to come, take a look at this clip right here. Yup, I can do that now. It's even better than I expected it to be, and I'm really excited to show you guys what other things this build can do. So starting off with our exotic, we have the Prospector. Now the Prospector got a couple of changes, but the main thing that you want to know about it is that it essentially is now a grenade launcher, but with cluster bombs. A couple of things stay the same. It still holds a ridiculous amount of ammo. It still holds 32 in the mag, and those cluster bombs actually helped it at just being better overall. It does more damage per shot thanks to those cluster bombs, and they also help with the ad clear bit. If something survives the initial shot, they'll probably die with the cluster bombs, and then if they didn't die with the cluster bombs, then the chain reaction that this weapon still has will probably kill them. Now with this build, the Prospector is not only going to be good at ad clear and at single target damage, but it's also going to be able to blind targets. So whenever we get a kill with the Prospector, it's going to do a blinding explosion, it's got to blind any targets that were near like the enemy that we killed, and if they get killed by their cluster bombs, it's going to trigger another blind explosion, meaning that we're just going to be blinding things all over the place with the Prospector. And we're just going to be getting a bunch of orbs and getting a bunch of super energy, since whenever we kill blinded targets, we get some bonus super energy towards our Gathering Storm. Now for the weapon that you want to pair the Prospector with is going to be an arc special weapon. I decided to go with the Trace Rifle, since the Trace Rifles, you can kind of use them like a primary, but you don't really have to go with the Trace Rifle. You could go with the Rocket Sidearm, you could go with another arc special weapon. It really is going to be up to you. The only thing that you want to keep in mind is that this is going to be like your main weapon whenever you're not using the Prospector. And this one's going to be able to take advantage of all those mods that we're also using with the Prospector, meaning that whenever we get a kill with the weapon, it's going to blind targets around it, more orbs, ionic traces. It is overall just going to give us a bunch of different stuff whenever we get some kills with this weapon. I would also recommend that you slap on a heavy ammo finder enhancement mod, meaning that we're going to get some more heavy ammo for our Prospector while using this weapon. Now while I do have bolt shot on this weapon, it is not something that's required. It does have some synergy with the build and it makes it better, but it doesn't really have to have bolt shot. As long as it's an arc special weapon, it should be pretty alright. Now for our super, we have Gathering Storm on. Our chest piece is all about the Gathering Storm, so we kind of have to have it on, and you're gonna want to have it on anyways. Now after that, for the melee, you can actually run whichever you want. Disorienting, combination, it won't really matter. We actually, believe it or not, are not really using our melee that much with this build, but most of you guys are probably still going to take combination blows because it's just something that you can pull out of nowhere. If you want to just start punching, you'll be able to with this build. And for the grenade, I recommend the flashbang. It's just another way to blind enemies and it does some pretty good damage. Now moving on to the aspects, the first one is going to be flow state. This one makes it so whenever we jolt targets, we go amplified. And whenever we're amplified, we're going to get a bunch of other things. Our class ability is going to recharge more quickly, so we're going to be able to spam it a lot more. We're going to have some damage resistance whenever we dodge, and also our reload speed is going to be greatly increased, meaning that we don't really have to run any loaders, and we're just going to have maxed out reload speed on all our weapons. Now for our second aspect, I decided to go with Ascension. It gives us an easy way to become amplified, and with flow state we can spam this thing and really take advantage of just being able to jolt targets with it. But we're mostly using it for an easy way of being amplified. Being amplified all the time pretty much plays a big part into this build, so this just kind of guarantees that we're always amplified. Now let's move on to the fragments, and let's start with the big one, which is Spark Beacons. Whenever we're amplified, our arc, heavy weapon or special weapon, final blows create a blinding explosion. And this is what's pretty much gonna allow us to just completely blind the enemies, whether it's with our special weapon or with a heavy, and is the reason why we want to be amplified all the time. This is going to be really good. As soon as you start blinding the enemies, you can just keep chaining that blind, essentially until there's no more enemies left. After that, we're going to have Spark Resistance. While we're surrounded by combatants, we are going to be more resistant to incoming damage. It gives us 25% damage resistance when we're surrounded by like 3 or more enemies. And this is going to be really good, especially for Onslaught. There's always 3 enemies around, so this thing is just constantly going to give you some damage resistance. After that, we have the Spark of Amplitude. Now this is one of the things that's going to help us get our super back faster. Whenever we're amplified and we rapidly defeat targets, we're going to make some extra orbs of power. And since we're always going to be amplified, we're always going to be making extra orbs, helping us get our abilities back faster, as was our super. And the last fragment that we have is going to be Spark Ions. Whenever we defeat jolted targets, it creates Ionic Traces. The Ionic Traces will give us back some ability energy, as was paired up perfectly with the Trace Evidence artifact perk. Whenever we defeat targets affected by Jolt or Blind, they'll generate Ionic Traces, so that's even more Ionic Traces to get some more ability energy. And also, whenever we pick up those Ionic Traces, we gain Armor Charge, meaning that we're always going to have a ton of Armor Charge, which is going to be good for keeping us alive, or just making some ammo in case we need some ammo. Now we gotta talk about the updated Raijus harness, and this is now so much better. It is essentially just a Gathering Storm exotic. I showed you at the beginning, you can get tons of energy back whenever you activate this thing, and it's amazing. Whenever you activate your super, it will amplify you and your allies, and it will also call this huge lightning strike that pretty much hits everything that's around you. You could actually like go and pop your super in a bunch of enemies and use that initial lightning strike. It will probably kill all of them. It does so much damage and it's really good. And if you activate it with enough enemies around, it gives you that crazy amount of super energy back. And this is without even talking about the actual Gathering Storm that then you're throwing at an enemy. Anything that survives will get hit by the Gathering Storm, or if you want to throw the Gathering Storm somewhere else, like you could go to a group of enemies, activate it there, and then just throw it at another group of enemies that's farther away. It essentially gives you 2 of those huge lightning strikes that happen whenever you hit something with the Gathering Storm, but just that one of them happens as soon as you activate it. This is definitely going to be a very fun exotic for any activities that have like high amounts of ads. One thing that you do gotta keep in mind is that since we're getting our super back so fast, do not wait like I was when first using this exotic chess piece. Since before there was nothing to like help us to get back our Gathering Storm, I definitely wasn't using it as much as I should have. So just keep throwing this thing out there. You see a big group of enemies, you see a big enemies, just throw it out there, you're gonna get it back quickly. And with all the orbs that we're also making with the build, that's also going to help you get the rest of the way to the super. So definitely just start spamming the Gathering Storm out there while you have this chest piece on. Now let's take a look at the mods real quick. First of all, for the helmet, we have Harmonic Siphon, so we can make some orbs with our special and heavy weapon. And then we also have Special Finder and Heavy Ammo Finder. Since we're relying so much on our heavy or special weapon, we have both of them. Now for our gauntlets, we have Momentum Transfer, Firepower, Fun to Focus, so we can get our grenade back a little faster, so we can get some orbs with our grenade, and also so we can reduce our melee cooldown with our grenade. On our chest piece, we have Emergency Reinforcements, and we also have 2 Resistances. This is so we can stay alive and give us a bit more survivability whenever our shields are broken. Now for our boots, we're going to have Recuperation, which is going to let us heal whenever we pick up some orbs. Arc Weapon Surge, so our arc weapons do a bit more damage. And lastly, Arc Scavenger. Since both of our weapons need a lot of ammo, we definitely need the Arc Scavenger. And lastly, for the class item, we're going to have Proximity Ward, Special Ammo Finisher, and also Time Dilation. So our armor charge can last longer, so we can make some special ammo if we need to. And then Proximity Ward is going to give us an overshield, so we can have those safer finishers. Now when it comes to the artifact, well, I don't really have all of it unlocked. You definitely want some kinetic impacts. Once you have it, it will help out the Prospector. And then this one is our MVP right here, Trace Evidence, which is going to give us tons of armor charge for picking up those Ionic Traces. And since we make a bunch of them, we're always going to have some armor charge, meaning that we're going to be tankier, we're going to do more damage, and we're also going to be able to make heavy. We're going to be able to do all those things with armor charge, and we just always have a lot of it. You just got to make sure that you use your boost, so that part of it is actually activated. There's possibly a couple other mods that we could use, but I think we would have to modify the build to include some of the other elements on Prismatic. But with that, that's going to be the end of the build. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys liked it. Like always, I'm gonna leave a dim link in the description below and also in the pinned comments in case you guys want to try out the build. And if you do end up trying it, make sure you come back here and tell me just what you thought about it. Now, one thing I will tell you about the build though that I didn't mention at all is that be careful with the Prospector. The Prospector is probably what caused the majority of my deaths while playing Onslaught with this weapon. I was just not used to the Prospector having those cluster bombs, and they will damage you. So be careful if you destroy a group of enemies. Just remember those cluster bombs are gonna go off, and if you're too close, they will damage you, and they really hurt. Besides that, have fun with the Prospector, have fun with your Gathering Storm. Just spam as much as you want, as much as you can. The blinding is super strong, and it kind of gives me an idea for a different build that I should be bringing to you guys soon. But anyways, thank you for stopping by today. Thank you for hanging out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.